Welcome to JNR Ministries for Kids. Not long before today's events, God's people had been slaves in Egypt for over 400 years. Now they were on a journey to a land of their very own, a land God had promised them many years ago. The people did not need a map. God showed them exactly where to go. In the day, he made a large cloud appear in the sky, and they followed the cloud. At night, he made a large pillar of fire appear in the same way at night. They would follow the fire. Today's Bible lesson is found in the book of Numbers. If you enjoy mathematics or counting, then you would probably enjoy the book of Numbers. God told the leader of the people, Moses, to count all of the people. Moses' brother, Aaron, helped him count because they were thousands and thousands of people. The number of God's people was so big that God asked Moses, their leader, to divide them into groups called tribes. When it came to camp, each tribe would gather together in their own place. Each tribe even had their own flag. If you were to look at a map of the camp, you would see God's very important tent, the tabernacle, in the center. Nearby, the tabernacle would be the Levites. Yes, they were the ones in charge of taking care of the tabernacle and leading worship. On the north, south, east, and west of edges of the camp, you would find the tents of the 12 tribes. Once the Israelites were organized into 12 tribes, God told Moses that it was now time to get ready to enter the land that he had promised them. A new land might be dangerous, so some Israelites should go quietly into the land to see what was there before they made a plan. Moses chose one man from each tribe to be a spy, to spy out the land. The 12 spies quietly went around the promised land, finding out as much information as they could without being seen. They saw big fighting men in the land, and some began to feel nervous. Would they have to fight these men before they could live in the new land? There were also big cities in the land, and they had strong walls built around them. The spies began to realize that this was going to be very difficult. Would God be strong enough to help them win against these people? But the 12 spies also saw that the land God had promised was amazing. They saw grapes, pomegranates, and figs. The spies cut off one branch of a grapevine and put it on a pole to carry back to show Moses and the people. The grapes were so big and heavy, it took 2 men to carry the pole. After spending 40 days spying out the land, these men knew it was time to return to the camp and give their report to Moses and all the people. Even though the spies had seen many good things in the land, some of them just wanted to talk about the bad things. 10 of the spies told Moses and the people that it would be too hard to enter the promised land. There were huge giant fighting men, and there all of the cities had strong tall walls. The 10 spies gave such a bad report that they said, the fighting men there are so big that we just look like little grasshoppers compared to them. The people were so discouraged. All the people were beginning to think that they should not go into the promised land. But 2 of the spies, Joshua and Caleb, had a different report to give to Moses and the people. They told the other 10 spies to stop saying that. It was too hard and too scary. Caleb said, we should go and take the land for ourselves. We can do it. But the people listened to the 10 spies more. There was so much arguing, and people began to get very angry. Some even said that God's promises were not good. They said God promised we could have our own land, but He can't help us beat giants. We never should have followed God. We should have stayed in Egypt. Moses and Aaron and Joshua and Caleb were shocked. Go back to Egypt? They had been slaves in Egypt. Why wouldn't the people believe God's promises? God was stronger than any giant or strong walls. Moses and Aaron and Joshua and Caleb begged the people, please don't be afraid. God will protect us. Trust God. But the people did not listen. In fact, they just kept getting more angry. They were so angry that they were just about to throw stones at the men who kill them. Moses talked to God, and the people were angry, but God was also angry. He had done so much for the people. He had saved them from slavery in Egypt. He had parted the Red Sea so they could cross through it safely. He had given them 10 commandments, food in the desert, and even a beautiful place to worship. He had chosen a beautiful land for them to live in, and all they had to do was enter the land, and He would keep His promise and protect them from all the enemies. Why didn't they believe Him? God was so angry that He felt like destroying all of the people. Even though the people did not deserve God's forgiveness, Moses begged Him to show His love and mercy to them. So God acted in mercy and decided not to destroy all of His people, but turning away from God was extremely serious. There would be a sad punishment, so everyone would learn a lesson for the future. Number 1, all of the people would suffer a punishment. If they had trusted God, then they would have entered the land right away. Now they would have to live in the desert for 40 more years before they entered the land. This was 1 year for each of the 40 days the spies had spent spying out the land. All of the people that complained and wanted to go back to Egypt, well, this is the second part, where they would suffer a punishment. They would not live past the next 40 years and would not have the joy of entering the promised land when the time finally came. Now, the third thing is, and finally, there was a punishment for the 10 spies that convinced all the peoples to turn away from God. These 10 men were overcome with a terrible sickness and died. In all of this, God remembered Joshua and Caleb's faithfulness. They were the only 2 of the 12 spies who did not die. And even though they had to wait 40 years along with the rest of the people, they would someday have the joy of entering the promised land. It may seem incredible, but there were some of the people who still didn't listen to God. They didn't want to wait 40 years, so they tried to enter the land anyway. But it did not matter how strong they were or hard they fought. Yep, they would never win without God on their side. Instead, they returned to the camp defeated. So it was back into the desert again. God continued to lead them, but they would have to wait 40 years before He would lead them back to the promised land. Now about you. If you had been one of the people who, would you have listened to the 10 spies? Or would you have listened to the 2 spies? Because, I'd listen to the 2 spies, but how about you? Okay, girls and boys, now it's time for Dorothy the Horse with today's verse of the day.
Hi everybody, it's me again, Dorothy, with the verse of the day. Okay, so today it's in Proverbs 3:5. Trust the Lord your God with all your heart, and lean not on your own understanding. Proverbs 3:5. Thank you. I'll see you next time, kids.